Excuse me, human? The insectoid alien politely interrupted the man's drinking. Might I ask you a question? You just did, but I'll grant you another. The human smiled and waved for the alien to sit across from him. Wordplay, amusing. I have several associates who will appreciate that bit of humour. The alien refocused as he made himself comfortable. Now, on the topic of sharing, you humans have made a bit of a name for yourselves in recent years, especially in regard to your entertainment history. He stopped as the human held up a hand. Let me guess, you want to know about our cultural obsession with zombies and the undead in general? The alien nodded. Yes. I assume I'm not the first to ask them? Nope, probably won't be the last one either. The human took a drink and sighed. Honestly, I didn't know much about it before at least one person bothered me about it whenever I went out. Apologies for the bother. The human lazily waved it off. Nah, don't worry about. Honestly, the research has been pretty fun. Another drink. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disappoint you with a short. It's complicated, varied, and highly contextual. The alien mirrored the human and waved it off. I would imagine so, but perhaps you could save my curiosity with a slightly longer explanation? The human shrugged and took another drink. Alright, the not-so-short of it. As far as I can tell, it originally began somewhere around when the first humans began settling in very close proximity to each other, in towns and villages. An allegorical response to not properly tending to the dead, I think, as people very quickly realised that corpses could cause issues like spreading disease or poisoning water supplies or attracting vermin and parasites. Of course they didn't know why at the time, so you end up with stories about angry spirits of the dead haunting the living. That's how you get ghosts. Another drink to wet his dry throat. Unfortunately, that's where things get murky. Once you have an idea, you start getting imaginative with it, you know? The alien nodded. I can guess. Once they started thinking of the dead affecting the world, they started to twist it to apply to other parts of their life, or just interesting stories to share. That's the bare bones of it, but yes. At any rate, the living dead became a matter of fascination to explain a number of phenomena in human life. You have diseases that can reduce a person physically until they look like an emaciated corpse, food deficiencies that can leave a person weak, shambling, and leave them looking as though they were sick or on the verge of dying. Eventually you start getting things attributed to cultures, like cannibalism. I don't think you'll find a single zombie that doesn't want to eat the living. Personally, I think zombies loving brains so much came from the inspiration of a real-world tribe some centuries ago that ritually ate the brains of the dead. Can't remember why, but it eventually led to brain prions becoming prevalent in the population and causing neurological, mental, and physical health problems. The alien shook his head. The image is disturbing, but not uncommon in most species' histories, though cannibalism was largely relegated to times of extreme scarcity. Then you needn't worry, because it's the same here, to such a degree that most people would sooner die than resort to it. Anyway, then you get deeper into it, like with vampires being representations of stagnant, prideful, elite upper classes sucking the life out of societies, or a fascination with reviving the dead, like with Frankenstein's monster. When folk and fairy tales started to be recorded en masse, they spawned genres of fantasy that often used the undead as either cannon fodder, or as remnants of Dedicant or Envious or some other sinful society. Undead wizards who threw away their humanity, locking themselves away in towers and plaguing the living lands around them, yada yada yada. The human took a much longer drink, waving a passing waiter down for some water this time. And then you get the more modern zombies? It sounds a little weird to call it that, since industrialization was a literal 1,000 years ago, but they came about as a critique against the dehumanizing, demoralizing, and tedious work that early industrial society propagated. Ah, the growing pains of industrialization. I don't think I've read about a single species that didn't look back on those times and remember it fondly, only for its eventual results, rather than the time itself. The alien let out its species' equivalent of a chuckle. The adolescence of civilization, I've heard many philosophers call it. The human shrugged. Honestly, we came out of it not too bad if half the things I've read about other species are true. Though, adolescence may be right if you were to look at all the drama and news of the time. Anyway, the collapse of civilization, the overwhelming, shambling masses clogging the streets, a band of plucky individuals rebuilding civilization with the moral of the story being that people became too dependent on their gizmos and gadgets to really be self-actualized people. He paused for a moment, or something like that. I never really liked the genre to pay too much attention to it. A few moments of silence passed as the human enjoyed his drink and the alien considered all that he had learned. Eventually the alien asked, Wow, that explains quite a lot about why you humans would be interested in them. But what I don't understand is why it has struck such a chord with the wider galactic community. It's so heavily contextualized to human history and culture. I know this may be outside of your knowledge, but perhaps you might offer some insight to why. The human laughed. Oh, that's easy. We don't need the cultural context to tell a good zombie story. Zombies are real. A pause, and the alien stood up slowly. I don't believe you. The human shrugged with a lopsided grin behind his glass. Sure you don't. By the way, on a completely unrelated note, you kind of look like a praying mantis. Look up the horsehair worm parasite if you ever get the free time. I'm not going to do that. Sure you won't. Everyone else with the curiosity to approach a strange human in the bar and ask that same question said the exact same thing. The human took one last swig of his drink and stood up as well, giving a jaunty wave to his insectoid conversation partner. Sweet dreams.